Hey guys, and welcome to another Polymer clay tutorial. Today we are going to create the location Tilted Towers from Fortnite. I can't believe it is over 90 minutes for a Polymer clay tutorial, but let's get started. And it all started with your poll. You decided that I should create Tilted Towers from Fortnite, and I was really curious. I did some level design before in Clash Royale, for example, but these were very tiny, and this project is so huge. I didn't even think I would finish it right on time for this Friday, but I did it somehow. Okay, now let's get started. Let's create Tilted Towers together. And you saw that I just mixed the dark gray for the street. And the beginning is the most important part where you have to pay some extra attention, because if you make some mistakes right at the beginning and make the streets too narrow, or let's say the buildings, the space for the buildings too narrow or too big, it just looks like crap. So be careful and start with a fresh head and pay some extra attention. I printed out this map. Well, this is the one you just find when you type into Google Fortnite Tilted Towers map. It's not high resolution. This is unfortunate, but it worked, so it was okay. Yes, two different kinds of gray, and we are starting to build up it looks like the blueprint for the whole city. In some way it is. So I'm placing the bright clay on top, and just be sure to make very thin layer of this gray for all the sidewalks in Tilted Towers in the city. Yeah, the game itself, Fortnite, is still so popular right now, and I recently got an email which made me think a lot, and which also showed me the dark side of such a popular game. And I don't want to be a hater, but I got an email from one of you guys, from one of the amazing clay community, and he told me that his best friend stopped hanging out with him because he was not playing Fortnite. So he was seeing new friends now, and he didn't want to do other stuff. I think I've been there as well, on both sides. On the one side where I didn't want to play with friends because I was playing a super exciting new game, and also on the other side I experienced this as well, so I really know how this feels if someone is turning you down and doesn't want to hang out with you because he rather wants to play. I was really thinking about this email. Of course I don't tell his name, but I was wondering how much gaming is too much gaming. Is there too much gaming? Is it measured in time, or is it measured in friends who ask to hang out with you? Let me know what are your thoughts on this topic. So I really don't want to be a hater, but I was just thinking about this topic. How much gaming is too much gaming if there's a friend in need. So maybe you have experienced something very similar. I'm curious to read it in the comments. Okay, now we are ready to go into the oven. freshly baked first layer of tilted towers. And now that I talked about this serious topic, of course I stopped talking about the creation, but I will get back to this right now. I also started creating the first plants, the first trees, and I was really looking forward to that. And now we are mixing this brown ochre clay, and this is obviously it is for the scenery, for the mountains. And this is also, in a way, this is just the base layer for the scenery, as we will add some plants, grass and trees on top. But we need this as mud, as, well, the base layer. Yeah. While creating all these buildings and streets, I think it is way more easy than to create characters. Yeah, so if you want to start creating with clay, well, you can place a window at the wrong position, and it's still a window at the wrong position. But a nose at the wrong position is a disaster. The face would look ugly, and it's a whole different face and whole different character then, and you are disappointed while creating. Yeah, and I realized that as well while creating all these streets and buildings. And woo, the return of the toothbrush. It's the best tool to create a nice texture for the grass. Yeah, and also this is also a great tool. Yeah, well, the scenery is almost finished. We will add some details, of course, and create trees, but for now we will create the most difficult part of this tutorial, which would be all the tiny buildings. And while creating, this is the first building, I asked myself how many details we would need for all the buildings. This one is called Fat H, I think, but I'm not sure because I'm not playing Fortnite. Still haven't started, I know. Yeah, this is the second building. This one is the most characteristic one, the clock tower. Well, maybe the most characteristic one is the main building, this castle. Is it called castle? Yeah. But first let's focus on the clock tower. So, how many details do we need that it can be noticed as a clock tower? I decided to go with some details, but this is the most important one, the clocks, of course. And there's also this tiny niche, looks like a window. And now this is the next building, right at the edge of Tilted Towers. It's staple, right? With a mini staple building. And this red, this is a great color for creating buildings, because it looks like a brick right away. This was the office building, but yeah, still not sure about this. But I'm sure about this one. This is the castle, and as it is such an important building, I thought, hey, let's create some extra details on this building. And after oven hardening, I will also paint some more details. This makes these buildings look so interesting, although they are that small. There's another building. Some buildings also have two colors, at least two colors. This is big red, I think, right behind the office building. This one was quite difficult to create because you didn't found, this is the fish building, because I didn't find any good reference images. because it was covered most of the time by the office building in front of the big red building. Yeah, some more brick red color for this tiny one. It's a grocery store, I think. And this is the double L. Also very tricky to create. I would say this was the most difficult building from all of these tiny buildings. And this is the garage. This was the most easy one to create with 4 garages. Is it the plural? Garages. Yeah, this is the tiny apartment building. I like this one the most. If I would choose one of these buildings to live in, I would take maybe this one or the Fat H, the building we created, the very first one. Yeah. And this is the basketball court. This was quite difficult. Because there are some stairs and I didn't find any great images from the stairs. This is a tiny wall and I thought, hey, let's go crazy. The baskets, the tiny baskets. I also should have created a tiny basketball. But now I'm coming up with this great idea, but now it's too late. And now I'm also placing 2 tiny houses, lodges, right in the background of Tilted Towers. I think it's a newspaper selling point. Yeah, that's it for the buildings. Now we can start with all the trees. And you will need some different some different kinds of green. This is the dark green and you will need it for the fir trees, for the pine trees. And I use my scalpel for all these details and it looks amazing, I think. At least I think it looks amazing. Sometimes I feel like celebrating while creating. It's like a party, but I'm alone. So while creating, I'm telling me stuff like, oh yeah, this looks really great, well done. Maybe you should work on this as well. Oh, look at the trees, amazing. Yeah, that's it for the trees. And now this is the last plate. These are all the cars. And to be more specific, these will be tiny police cars. I think we will need 3 of them. I decided to create 4 that I could screw up on one of these cars while creating. And also all the other cars ready to go into the oven. Freshly baked empty neighborhood in Tilted Towers and the buildings and the trees and all the tiny cars. And this is the part I was looking forward to. Assembling all these pieces and painting them as well. I told you I would use some pens for the roof, for example. I tried to create this building with a very thin layer of black clay. I failed. So I decided to use this pen. You can just take any kind of pen which is similar. For the clock tower, I'm also adding this white detail in the lower part. And for the staple building, also the roof is black. Also on the tiny staple. And now we will paint all the windows and the doors. I'm not sure, you can correct me if I did any mistakes. because I didn't always find that great reference images. Yeah, and this is the castle. I'm adding some green. I really loved the color on this building, and now the red stripes, the very characteristic red stripes, some black for the roof. I think this is the building I like the most of all, because it looks so interesting and unique compared to the other buildings. Well, this goes on and on. I won't show you how I painted all of these buildings. Just made the roof black, added some white stripes, and now we will paint some more white stripes. These are all the marks on the street. There are different pedestrian crosswalks as well, and I think I may have also forgotten one. But this is the big moment. It was so much fun to glue all these buildings onto the Tilted Towers map. So here we go for the last building as well, the apartment 1. Oh, whoops, the garage as well. And that's it for the buildings. And now we can start gluing and assembling all the trees. I think this is the most important tree because it is right between all these buildings. And I also liked this one a lot because it makes the building so friendly. And I can tell you, it was so frustrating gluing these tiny tiny trunks, tree trunks onto the street. But somehow in the end I managed a way to glue it onto these tiny pieces of brown clay. But it was a struggle. Yeah, this is the park. This would be the spot where I would go first. Yeah. So now also the trees. And while gluing all the trees, I almost forgot one of the buildings. This is the shop, which is downstairs. So let's place it as well. And these are the brighter trees I also created. I forgot about these as well. And now we start gluing all the tiny buses and cars onto the map as well. This is the bus. I think these are school buses, right? Before you're wondering, I decided to go with the old map of Tilted Towers and not the destroyed one by the meteor. But we can also do this afterwards. So, before this tutorial is over, it is coming to an end. Please participate in this poll. Which skin from Fortnite should be created next? And guys, I guess finally, that's it! Tilted Towers! Right at the beginning, when I started creating Tilted Towers, I was wondering what it would look like if I combine it with my battle bus I created from clay. So let's have a look. Oh, this looks sick. Guys, I guess that's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care. See you next week with part 2 from the Rascal tutorial. Bye. This was Star Wars, right? Oh.